Hey, what's up, guys? So I'm here to make a new video today, and I just wanted to kind of go back because there are a lot of things happen when you're doing your spiritual journey, and and I was been kind of telling stories of things happening, like when I was doing healing. But like, let me start telling you how to build things I built in my spiritual world, because it's kind of like we're always being raised and taught, oh, you have this, a lot of Christians use this as an example to get you to Christianity, to feel God inside you, which is kind of true. But not like the real truth, I think, from my perspective. You have this thing where, you're empty inside. And, we're physically here, we're mentally here, but we're not spiritually here. And it's how do you build up your spirit, right? Because we're always being taught how to build up physically and mentally, learning, and that's how you build your mental, and working out and eating right, and it helps out with your physical, but how do you work your spiritual? So this is the next key I think I want to kind of teach on growth. So if you start getting, and you've seen my first video, you were in the spiritual world, okay? And you can build in there. It's kind of like you have your own pocket dimension, I call it. It's because we all have our own, even though we're a shared consciousness, that's not fully true because we're individuals here on this planet. So you have your own personal consciousness, which is, I like to say, my own pocket dimension. So it's like here I am, and then spirit world. And then now I'm in my spirit world, and it's all darkness right now. Usually mine's not dark anymore because I built so much stuff that I've kind of I gave light to the darkness, if this makes sense, okay? And when I'm in there, I'm building things learning, because learning, physical, mental, physical, and spiritual is like the Trinity, and it gets into more and stuff like that. But your first set of learning and growing is that, and that's what the most important thing is what I build. So if you go out and look on the internet and you look up the seed of life, I wish I could just pull stuff up on the internet or do the cool stuff like people on YouTube. I'm not going to. You can do a little bit of the work yourself, If I knew, I'm not technologically smart. I'm not that guy. And I don't try to admit being that guy. But if you look up, it's called the seed of life, and everything starts in certain levels of dimension, right? You have first dimension, second dimension, third dimension, and second dimension is flat, right? 2D, you drawing cartoons, it's 2-dimensional, but then you have 3-dimensional, which is us, and you have fourth dimension, which is spirit, and then fifth dimension is a fusion of spirit and third, it's a fusion of fourth and third, and then you have sixth dimension, which is I don't know how to say, bends and shapes and turns. It's I don't know how to explain. It's a little complicated. It's if you're, it's boop, 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 boop. If you were looking at holding a crystal, and you know how the crystal has so many different edges, that's sixth dimension. It's it shifts differently. But at least if you're trying to make it to fifth dimension, which is mostly what they're out there kind of teaching, you got to build your spirit up. And so I always start, I imagine seeing it on the ground. If I was looking at the darkness of the ground, I build that spirit. But you first have to, tap into your chakras. And then once you tap into your chakras, you use those energies. So how I taught you with the sun kind of unlocks chakras, but it unlocks your, mainly your solar plexus. But then go sit in the green energy sun looking thing. Go sit in the purple. Go sit in the bluish purple. Go sit in the blue. Go sit in the yellow. Go sit in the red. Go sit in the orange. All the different chakras have different energies that allow you to tap into stuff, okay? And so then, once you start tapping into those energies, you can use it to draw in the spiritual world, kind of you see sigils, and that's where they kind of talk about people always saying you see the scientists on the TV shows if we could figure out what these symbols mean, we would be able to really understand the universe. And that's for the truth, and that's what I'll be doing in my spiritual world. So I'll be learning stuff, and then they'll be talking about it, and I'm let me go take that to the spiritual. Let me draw it out. Because like it'll go from two-dimensional. Once you draw it out, you're drawing it two-dimensionally. Things will happen three-dimensionally and four-dimensionally. It'll like change. Something will happen. So I drew the seed of life. And then in the seed of life, you draw things inside each circle. So each circle is like another piece. And then I went with the yin and yang sign. And crazy enough, it like activated stuff. And then once I filled up each of the circles with a different like, kind of like, think of like, don't use all the stuff in the coexist stuff because some of that's weird, but the coexist sticker, and it like uses all these different symbols that like is coexisting to create the coexist, to coexist with all the different religions, that's a truth, but you put that in the seed of life. And then like once you fill the seed of life with all these different like symbols that fit perfectly into what they is, then it like activates the tree of life and the tree life, and then like it will grow, and then like your chakras is like part of, because you have light and dark chakras, and you have solid chakras, which is like the physical chakras, and then you have like all the chakras are locked above you, and all the chakras are locked below you. But you have to like, it takes time, and it's like the tree kind of guides you. And what I mean by that is like, so the seed of life, each of the things that you put into the seed of life activates certain things that are going to be like your future gifts. So I say be specific when you do that. It's like very, very important, like, because it's like, it's who you are. So it's going to be what you're drawing, because there's infinite paths. There's not one right path. Now, don't be wrong, there's some really good paths, because like, think of like if you were doing construction, right? And there's like this one way that someone teaches you how to build a frame to a wall, right? But then you see this other guy building a frame to the wall, and he does it way faster and way better, right? Because he figured out a better technique, right? So it's important to make sure you know that what you're getting yourself into and what path you take. It's like titles that you put over your head, like Bob the Builder, right? He's the builder, right? But that's just all he is, right? That's all you know Bob as. But Bob could also be a cook. Bob could also be a martial art expert. You know what I mean? Like that's what you got to understand is like, don't get yourself labeled by titles, because titles can lock you down, right? Don't get yourself labeled like, well, I'm a Christian. Don't get yourself labeled up, because then like you limit yourself to what a Christian is. And that's not, I'm an infinite being. The universe is infinite. So everything's infinite. So there's infinite possibilities. There's infinite things. That means I can go backwards and change things, and it can affect everything else and within my frequency, if that makes sense. But like, as you build these things, your frequency like rises, right? And so as I was doing stuff, and the energy like unlocked different stuff, which then allowed me to like, it's like synchronicity. So like after I unlock these things, then like other stuff that I'm like looking up, doing information, sometimes even just scrolling on Facebook, because you're part of these spiritual groups. But a lot of times these people like, they're posting the stuff, and they're like more feeling the words, sometimes like what they're saying, and really the picture behind it. It's the real fucking, like that's the real thing that you wanted to look at, And it's understanding and learning to a deeper meaning of like what these words means, what these symbols means. What is like if you like draw the Trinity sign, there's 3 or 4 different Trinity signs. What's Trinity sign do you feel like what's best for you, and how you connect and what you learn and build in there can like fully affect what your powers become as you're growing. Because my powers in the spiritual world, all kinds of different, I have different kinds of powers, because I didn't like limit myself to one, but like there's things I focus on, because I think focusing on certain, like master, the jack of all trades, master of none, right? Well, I think it's important to master a few of them, right? Because eventually it's like, like what if your abilities are become fire, right? So master that fire. What if your abilities become earth? Master the earth, Like whatever you feel like, master some of that, even though you might I might be able to tap into fire, water, ice, earth, air, wind, water, whatever like elements, into how I unlock them. It's all up to you, if that makes sense, okay? So that's where I kind of get at, is like how and what do you want to unlock? And for me, it's like I first started with the seed of life, and then I put in the yin and yang sign, and then I put in the time sign. So like not like the old ancient versions picture of the time, of like what time looked like, and I put that into there, and then man, there's so many things I've done. Put into my I've done the Merkaba. And it's to think of like this too, like the Star of David, which is people would call the Merkaba, right? If you look at the Star of David in a two-dimensional level, that's all your conscious is that's all you think that is, then your conscious is really at a two-dimensional state, because technically we're three-dimensional beings in it, seeing everything in a two-dimensional world. And when you become a fourth-dimensional being, you see everything in a three-dimensional world. And like, if you see the Merkaba, which is the Star of David, it actually becomes more and more complex. And then that's where you get like, where it's like, so now I think of you like you have the Star of David in the triangle, but then like you got to think there's a point that goes this way and a point that goes this way, and then a point that goes this way and a point goes this way and a point goes this way and a point goes this way, which then you get into like, then you start seeing, and that's where I get into like sacred geometry. So then I start building sacred geometry, and that is one of the parts that went into one of my seeds of life. Because building shapes, like giving shape, like eventually I want to be able to like move the earth and like make it shape. You got to be able to shape things. And that's part of like becoming the path. I chose the path, for me personally, I chose the path of the creator, but also a path of a warrior and a healer. But my main is like a creator and a warrior, because, I got to create my path to get to become a warrior, right? We're creating our own future in the path that we take. And so as I'm like building these things, some of these things, when they start in two-dimensional, they become three-dimensional. And then like, but you'll see them. It's not, maybe sometimes it don't happen right off the bat, like right when I create it, just boom, now it's in three-dimensional. No, it's like, I built it, and then like things happen, and then I'm doing other things like adding different energies, because I'm unlocking different like things and thought processes, and then like it changes perspective. So then now I'm seeing this now not just in two-dimensional, now I'm seeing this in three-dimensional, but then it's like now I'm seeing this in four-dimensional. So like you see the Merkaba, but then like you see it in a third-dimensional where it's like a prism. So then it goes from a prism, then it goes into like if anyone's played Dungeons and Dragons, it's like it becomes the inner sanctum of the D20 dice, and a D20 dice is a 20-sided dice, right? So then like the Merkaba can actually become a 20-sided thing. But then you have like the Rubik's Cube, and imagine the Rubik's Cube, and that becomes the Rubik's Cube is really just a piece of the Metatron's cube, and that can actually activate things. And that's like, how do you get the Metatron's cube is actually from fusing all the sacred geometry pieces. If you build all the sacred geometry pieces, like if you see stuff like, like the triangle, the pyramid is air, the diamond is like fire, the square is water or earth, and then the D20 looking dice, that shape, the 10-sided or the 12-sided is water, whatever the fucking, I can't remember these things at the top of my head, okay? But then if you take them and then like you fuse them all into the D20 side dice, it creates something different, and then that's where it becomes Metatron's cube. So it's like, it gets more and more complicated as you go on, and this is why it's important for you to go learn the work yourself. Like go study, and I'll even mention this as if anyone's looking for something that has like gets more and more in depth and stuff like that, like the into the sacred geometry and chakras, it really deeps into chakras. There's this guy I watched way back in the day that kind of helped me unlock. And I play Dungeons and Dragons, which is like, it's like things in your life was always bringing you about to see these things to be able to unlock them. And for me personally, it was called Spirit Science. Just if you're gonna type in, do Spirit Science episode 3, because like when they first started it, people, like, I guess, how people are like, we have the rights to this music. And so somebody complained because the background music he was using when he talked. So he had to like scrap the 2 videos and start on episode 3 for the music that he used. But he gets really deep and delve. He's like at the time, he's like a college student, and he's like teaching stuff he's learning, because, it's like, that's how it kind of works. Like to become a teacher, you have to be someone who's learning all the time. So as you're learning, you teach what you learn, because it helps others, and it also helps you, like, it helps sticking into your brain. Like it helps like permanently learning it, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's called Spirit Science, and starting on episode 3, and that really gets more in deep into the sacred geometry and stuff like that, and chakras, and I think it has a good kind of like history. It talks about Atlantis and stuff like that, which I can get into that Atlantis kind of stuff, but But yeah, so I just wanted to kind of make another video and get that out there for you guys. So I hope this helps for y'all. Good luck.